Hello my friends, my name is Lindsey. I run the blog Books for Christian Girls, and welcome back to the little corner of the internet where I talk mainly about Christian fiction and clean fiction for today because I am sharing with y'all some more summer book recommendations. I did a video about this last year, and looking at that list, I feel like that is still like a very solid, good master list of books I recommend for summer reading. But I was able to come up with a few more for both Christian fiction, clean fiction, and then also just some binge-worthy books and series that hopefully will add maybe to y'all's summer TBR. But if you haven't seen that video I did last year, I'll link it up above and in the description because that is definitely like, when I think of summer, I think of those books, a lot of those books. So I would still say that is like my master list of summer recommendations, but I have a few more. So we're going to discuss them. Let's go ahead and get started with Christian fiction, but as always, I have links to full content reviews of all of these books down in the description if you want to know any content info. Now let's get started with Christian fiction. So my first book I want to recommend may not be a surprise to some of y'all, but I have to mention it. It needs to be officially in a summer recommendations video, and that is Because of You by Hannah Currie. This is a standalone YA contemporary Christian novel about Chloe, who is 16 years old and going on her first mission trip to Thailand. She is Australian, so you have like that element as well, but just learning about Thailand and the missionary mission trip aspect and the faith content. There is no romance, which is a pro and a con, I think, for a lot of people, but it didn't really need romance. It was just so much fun. I remembered so many parts of my own student trip while I was reading this book when I went to China, and I just really enjoyed it. I have tabs all over my copy, but I thought I would just read the first line. Ready? Okay. This would be the summer that changed my life forever. And I thought that was a great opening line personally, especially since this is a summer recommendations video. And then it goes on and says, at least that was what the brochure promised. And it's about, you know, her mission trip and everything about that. And I just really enjoyed this book so much. A couple middle grade recommendations I wanted to mention. The first one is one I've been talking about quite a bit in my last few videos, and that's Keep 'Em Flying by Nell Branum. This is actually set in July and has such a patriotic feel to it, so it would be great to read it around July 4th. But you can read it now. That's totally fine. July is not over. Sorry. I'm always dropping books in my videos. I always am. Anyway, this book is about Riley, and she is in 6th grade, and she is entering into this historical society's writing contest where you have to write about somebody during World War II. And so she picks to write about her great-grandma, who was a Rosie the Riveter. I'm trying to think what else I can say that wouldn't like spoil the book or give you too much information. I think the back cover gives you quite a bit. And so you have her giving her speech about her great-grandma. Well, hello, Daisy. I don't remember what I was talking about with this book, but Daisy wants to tell you about her day as well. But Riley basically gets involved into a mystery about a missing item from a museum that has to do with World War II, and she makes a new friend, and yeah, lots of things. I actually just read the second book, and I would say it's way more fallish, so I'm going to be recommending that one come the fall recommendations video if I can put together enough recommendations for that. But for now, I would recommend reading this one in the summer. It's short, it's fun, it's very patriotic and delightful. One specific book I also want to recommend would be Jack vs. the Tornado by Cleary Eastep. This is book 1 in the Tree Street Kids series, and they're not all mysteries. This one, well, they have kind of light mystery elements, but they aren't like actual mysteries, I would say. There is, I think book 4 has more of a mystery thread to it. But this follows a young boy named Jack. I think he's about 12, thereabouts, 11, 12. And him and his family are moving to the suburbs from the country life. And he's not overly thrilled about that because all he's known is his grandparents' house in the country and like having his pet chicken and everything. And he has a younger sister who I just love dearly. If you read this book, I feel like you'll kind of get like DW from Arthur vibes, but not as sassy and disrespectful. His little sister is fantastic though. I love her. And so they are moving to the suburbs in a neighborhood where all the street names are trees, hence Tree Street Kids is the series title. And it's set in 1995, and it just has such a nostalgic feeling to the series. This one and book 2. Book 2 was The Hunt for Fang. I would say, well, let me look at book 3. Let me see. Book 3 had to do with the school. That was like the start of school. So no, that's more fall. So book 1 and 2 would be more about summer themes and riding their bikes all around the neighborhood. And then book 2 actually has the kids going to like a VBS vacation Bible school kind of setup. And I just thought that was so fun to read about because that was so nostalgic for me with all the VBSs I went to growing up. And all of like, you know, riding your bike around with your friends and just like coming up with all kinds of different games and everything. It's been a very nostalgic series. So book 1 and book 2 is specifically great for the summer, I would say. Both Keep 'em Flying and the Tree Street Kids series are technically middle grade books, so they are suitable for middle grade ages of like 9 to 12. And then I have content reviews if you want the details to make sure they'd be good for your kiddo. But I think older would enjoy them just as well. They are fun. If you like middle grade books and series, you might as well just check these out because they were really good ones in my opinion. A YA series I think would work for starting in the summer, and you could either finish it because it is a finished series and just binge read it, or you could drag it out, I guess, if you wanted to. I suggest reading them back to back because there's cliffhangers, but that would be the Color Theory trilogy by Ashley Busamante. The world of this book was really interesting because it's set in like our modern day world, but in the Bermuda Triangle, and there's magic there. So those who live there have what's called color magic, so they are able to pull magic for different things from colors around them. And so that's all like hunky-dory, fine and dandy, but those that have the yellow color magic are basically like illegal. And that's because like they can manipulate people's emotions, and there's like a lot of fear and stigma around those. So our main girl is Ava, and she is kind of the teacher's pet. She's like a class A student. No, she's like the top of her class, a straight A student. That's what I meant to say. And she is like, you know, just going about life, and then she runs into the most wanted yellow color magic user in the forest. So that just kind of sets off from there. It's kind of a dystopian fantasy plotline, I think you could say. I think that'd be really fair to call it dystopian fantasy, even though it's not actually dystopian. It has the vibes of it because you've got a potentially corrupt government, and adults not telling everything, and just a lot of different elements of it. It would be a good one to binge read. It is kind of in between Christian fiction, clean fiction. The beginning is more just clean fiction, but as the series continues in the final book, there is some Christian allegorical content. Now, this next one, technically, yes, I recommended it in my spring recommendations video, but I just re-listened to it, and I think it should count for summer as well. And that is A Lady's Guide to Marvels and Misadventure by Angela Bell. She just released the title of her new book that's coming out in July of 2026, and I'm already so excited. Like, it sounds so interesting just by the title alone, and how much I have just truly, truly enjoyed this book. I read it last year, really enjoyed it, listened to the audiobook last week and really enjoyed it again. This is a whimsical historical fiction book. And yes, I think spring is the best time to read it. I really do. But if you haven't read it and you like traveling and like adventure stories or misadventure stories, I would suggest this book for sure for the summer. Like, don't push it out. Read it now. It's so good. But basically, this is following Clara, and bless her heart, she's got a lot going on. There has been tragedy in her family and deaths of loved ones, and it gets worse when her ex-fiance is basically trying to blackmail her and to marrying him because he knows family secrets. And her family are unique for their time. They're not really understood by society. So you have poor, sweet, stressed out Clara trying to take care of everyone and keep everyone from basically being put into a mental asylum because they are just not the society norm. Her grandfather is a tinker. Her mom is a huge animal advocate, and personally, I loved her mom. I thought her mom was absolutely fantastic, and her little nuggets of wisdom as well were fantastic. But Clara is just stressed, and her grandfather does not help when he hires an apprentice off the street, and this apprentice guy, Arthur, is not telling really anything about him, and Clara is just like, she's so suspicious, she's distrustful. She can be a little mean to him, but I feel like it's very reasonable when you find out what she has been through, why she is so distrustful and such to him. This is such a fun book though because it's inspired by the Nutcracker in different ways, but also Around the World in 80 Days. And that is because Clara's her grandfather, is going off on a kind of adventure to lead her on basically a scavenger hunt. And so it is up to her, her mother, and the new apprentice, the suspicious new apprentice, Arthur, to help track down her grandfather before somebody else tracks him down. And so we have going to many, many different European countries and just their trips and their travels and just so many lessons and growth. And I love the main guy, Arthur. He is fantastic. He's one of my favorite male leads. He really is. And Clara, I just relate to so much. I know I'm fangirling and rambling, so I'm sorry about that, but it is really such a good book. It has that adventure wanderlust kind of feeling to it, and I think that is really good for summer. Personally, I would say spring is probably the best time to read it, but if you want about adventures and misadventures and marvels, then you might check this one out. And then for Christian fiction, my last series I kind of want to mention is currently just a duology as of filming this, but the third book is releasing in September, and that would be the Little Red Truck Mystery Series by Janice Thompson. I think I personally preferred the second book over the first book, but this has been a really fun series. It is set here in Texas, a very hot state, and so book one is tracking Tilly, and that is about our main girl trying to not only find her late grandfather's special red pickup, but also win the bid on it at an auction, and then having to find it when it gets stolen. And then there's some other suspicious things happening around town. Book 2 is Sabotage at Cedar Creek, and that one is kind of set around July 4th summer heat kind of style, so I feel like those really work for the summertime. And then book 3, I have not read yet, but that is Mistletoe and Mayhem. Love the title. And that is Christmassy, and it will be coming out September 1st if the ebook doesn't release earlier, but the physical copy is coming out then. So I'm going to read that one then, but this would be a great time to catch up on the series. There is like some small town drama and gossip and stuff, which isn't really my personal favorite, but the author writes different elements in such humorous ways. If you have read the Brides with Style series by Janice Thompson, then you would probably also enjoy this series. Moving on into clean fiction, I have a few, and then I have some other ones that are just like binge-worthy, bingeable. I'm going to make a whole separate video on binge-worthy books and book series at some point, but I thought I would give y'all a few in case you just want to binge a series, because I think summer is the best time for that personally. So starting off with clean fiction, this one just like feels so obvious I have to mention, and that is Summer of the Summoned Sword by Sarah Beran. This is technically book 2 in the series, but you could read book 1 and 2 out of order. So you can read this one first, get a feel of the world, and then move back to book 1, or you can read them in order. Either way. This was actually my favorite one of the series. There is 4 plus a bonus book, if you will, into the series. But this is following a princess who is of the summer court. So in this fae world, there are all types of faes. So there's fairies and pixies and elves and trolls and dwarfs and like mermaid. Is there mermaids? I think they're mentioned, but I don't think we actually see any of them. And in this book, we follow our main girl, Elsa, which, side note, I think it's really funny that, like, we know, you think of Elsa as in winter because of Frozen, but here she is, the princess of the summer court with no ice powers, and I just thought that was funny. But the little tag on the back cover says, "A princess accused of murder, a knight without a name, a legend retold." And so this is not necessarily a fairy tale retelling. I think, should I even attempt to say how you say this? Lohengrin? Up there, I don't know. Lohengrin. however we say that, retelling, which I think is a play or a musical or something. I'm not familiar with them, but this was so much fun. This was so cute. I loved the main couple, and they actually have to do a marriage of convenience, which is my least favorite trope, I think, potentially. Is that, yeah, that's probably my least favorite trope. But the author made it work so well, and they just had such a sweet friendship and banter and just so many different parts of it I really enjoyed. But yes, she is accused of being a murderer, so she can't technically take over the crown of her kingdom. So he has to come and step in, and different things happen. It was really good. I also have 2 here in the summer recommendations video that have desert themed settings, so I feel like it should count. So one of them would be A Wishful Hope by Sarah Beran, and this is an Aladdin retelling, so you have, like, you know, the caverns and the sand and the genie and the lamp, which, fun fact, maybe not a fun fact, but a fact, would be that our main girl is not Princess Jasmine. She is the genie in the lamp that our main guy Aladdin, called Dan, and his younger brother, who is a hoot, love him, he needs his own book, they find her and they have to help her, and she is very distrustful because of all the abuse she has had at the hands of those who have found her lamp. And it was just a really interesting concept and thought. I gave it 4.5 stars. I really enjoyed it. I also gave Summer of the Summoned Sword 4.5 stars, but it was just really neat. There is light Christian faith content as well and discussions, and it was just a really neat one. I really enjoyed it. So it has like that Aladdin Middle East setting with the sand and all of that, so I feel like that works for the summer. And then another one that has kind of a similar setting, like place setting, that is no-how connected to it, would be To Sway a Swindler by Megan Charlie. This one was just interesting in such a fun way because it is a kind of loose retelling of the Pied Piper, but what if the Pied Piper was a con man? Yes. And I was just like, oh, that's ingenious. I thought it was just so much fun. Our main guy, because he's having to, you know, survive and make a living to be able to eat, he has his magical flute that he is able to make appear to these different towns that they are being infested, that's the word I'm looking for, infested by rats and mice and all of that kind of stuff. And so he takes care of them for a sum, but, you know, he's a con man. He's a reluctant con man, and I think those are kind of the ones I prefer to read about. Like, if I'm going to read about someone who's conning others, I want them to be reluctant. Like, you gotta have some morals in you, you know? And so he goes around to all these different towns, and it's kind of a Middle East setting as well. And it was just really interesting. He gets a tag-along, a stowaway of a very curious young woman with him. And yeah, different things happen. There's kind of a little bit of a mystery thread as well, and they're trying to like stop some bad guys. And yeah, it was really enjoyable. I liked this one. And then to switch us off from the fairy tale retelling, I want to just like give this one as well. And that is Georgana's Secret by Arlem Hawks. There is a sequel to this book that I have not read yet, so I'm not recommending that one. I will get to it at some point. Keep delaying it on my Libby app. A quick random note. Has anyone else's Libby app been really sassy? Because like I used to just like delay things 7 days and that would be fine. But a few months ago it started doing 25 days. And I feel like it's sassing me. I really do. Okay, besides the fact. This is a Regency book though, and we follow Georgana. And because of family circumstances, her father is a captain, I think, in His Majesty's Royal Navy during the war. You know, things are happening. And so because of family circumstances though, and not really having a safe place to be at while her father's gone, her and her father come up with the idea that she can sneak aboard his ship and be a cabin boy named George. And so that's the plan. And everything's going pretty swimmingly, pun intended, because it's set on a boat, you know, get it? Okay. And everything's going pretty well though, until we have, what was his name? Dominic? Yeah, Dominic, who is the new lieutenant or like first captain or some title, I don't remember the title, of her father's ship. And he sees George being mistreated and kind of sticks up for him, but like there's things that aren't adding up, and he was just a good guy. He was good. I liked Dominic a lot. I don't usually like the she's posing as a boy trope, but it worked really well in this book. I was pleasantly surprised. It had some really, really sweet parts. So yeah, it's set in the summer on the water. Basically they're on a boat the entire book, which would usually be like I'm not interested in that at all, but it worked really well. So yeah. And then for the next part of this video, I just want to share with y'all maybe some like binge-worthy books, because I feel like binge reading is so fun, especially when it's a completed series. Now, admittedly, not all of these are completed series, so sorry about that, but you can look forward to the next book of the series with me. How's that? Yeah. Join me in my suffering. No. So one series that is not completed that I have been talking about a lot would be the Kingdoms of Legacy series by Melanie Cellier. We have Legacy of Roses, which is book 1. That is a not technically Beauty and the Beast retelling. Then we have book 1.5, which is a bonus book, and that is Ties of Legacy. Such a fun one. And then book 2 is A Legacy of Glass, and that one released back in May. Book 3 is a Sleeping Beauty retelling-ish, and I'll explain in a minute if you haven't heard my spiel about this series, and that is coming out on August 22nd. So perfect time to binge the prior 3 books so you can wait for that next book with me, because I can't wait for it. And I say these aren't really fairy tale retellings because they're not. They are set in this country that is divided into 6 kingdoms, and each kingdom has basically an origin story of an original fairy tale. And so you've got like Cinderella, Sleeping Beauty, Beauty and the Beast, and those are the ones that are coming out or will be out. And then I'm trying to think on the author's website, Rapunzel is one, Rumpelstiltskin, and I can't remember what the other one is, but they're all going until I think, let's look this up because I need a refresher on my brain. I love it when authors have a tab about coming soon. Like, yes, tell me, what's coming up? Let's see. Okay, so in 2026, we have Rumpelstiltskin, which is book 4. Book 5 is Rapunzel. And then in 2027, you've got the Snow Queen, book 6, releasing. So, yeah, we have a little bit of time. But honestly, time is flying by. It really is. I'm not sure how that's happening, so feel free to anticipate these with me. But in this world, each country has an origin story of an original fairy tale. And because of the magic that was in that tale has kind of like soaked into the land and affected the rest of the kingdom, they have what's called the legacy, which is basically the remnants of that magic or the enchantment from those stories. So for an example, in the first book, you've got Beauty and the Beast inspired, and the only flowers that grow there are roses because, Beauty and the Beast. And because our main girl in that one is a merchant's youngest daughter, like Belle, the legacy is putting a lot of emphasis on her. And then here comes this kind of noble-ish young man that has inherited an abandoned castle. And so you've got elements with that. And it's just really interesting. The creativity for this series is so much fun. Book 2 is more Cinderella inspired. So you have this country that does amazing glass work, but everyone is always losing their shoes. And so at one point, the main girl of that book tells the crown prince, who is great at finding lost shoes, of course, that he could go into a business for that. And I cracked up at that because, yeah, he totally could. This has been such a fun series. I would say the magic content is really light. If you're okay with magic content for fairy tale retellings, then this series would probably be fine. It's been really cute, and I can't wait, obviously, for the 3rd book. So, yay! And then another fairy tale retelling series that is completed that I think would be really fun to binge read here in the summer would be the Singer Tales series. It is 6 books by Deborah Grace White. Book 1 is Song of Ebony, and I specifically thought about this series though because this first book is a Snow White retelling, but it's set in a jungle-like setting, and I don't know, I feel like that should count for summer. Jungles. I mean, they're tropical, warm climate places, so that equals summer. Right? Yeah, maybe it's a stretch, but I think it should count. And this is a completed series of 6 books. There is also 1 bonus book and then a spin-off trilogy that's also really good for binge reading. It was a really fun series overall. I would say the last 2 books in the series were my favorite, but it was really interesting. It was really different. Basically, those who have magic and are able to use magic are called singers because they sing and they are able to call up the magic from the land and, do different things. It was really interesting, very bingeable. Again, all on Kindle Unlimited, series completed, there's spin-off books. I think it was fun, personally. So my next book is technically book 1 in a series that is not completed, but it's a standalone series, I think would be fair to say, because the next book is following a different couple. So I'm going to mention it, even though it's technically probably set right at the beginning of fall. I feel like it works for summer. There is just a vibe to this book that fits for summer, and that would be I Wish I May by Edlyn Berlingstein. I would say maybe 16 and up personally. I have content details, and because of a few little content details, that's why I'm specifically saying for 16 and up. This one was really interesting though, because we follow Zelda, who is a fairy godmother in training at a boarding school for fairy godmother in trainings, and she gets her first mission, her first wish that she has to do for someone, and it turns out to be the crown prince, and his wish is pretty complicated, and so they become friends. It leads to more, and there's also like political intrigue a little bit and suspicious things happening in their country, and I just thought it was really interesting. It felt very YA, but like in the best possible way. Like it was just very enjoyable and such a easy, like bingeable book. So that's why I say it for summer. It almost at times reminded me of like Ever After High, that franchise that has like, you know, the fairy tale magic, but it's not like the traditional fairy tale stories or like a fairy tale retelling. It has some unique elements to it. I feel like it just kind of reminded me of a Disney Channel movie, like the old school ones that I grew up with at times as well, and I don't really know why. I think that's just like it's the epitome of YA and teen and just fun. They probably should be breaking out into musical dance numbers at any point now. That's what this book felt like. And that was just fun. I'm not gonna lie, that was just fun. Do they break out in song? No, they don't, but it could work. It could work. I don't know. It was just fun. You know, it's just a fun book. So, I'm rambling. Let's move on to the next book. Actually, my next book is a series, and it's my last recommendations for this video, and that would be the Secrets of Ormdale series by Christina Bear. This is 5 books, and it's completed. There is going to be a spin-off series that the author is currently writing, and I can't wait to get my hands on that one. But this series is completed. It is so good. Book 1 is Wormwood Abbey, and it is cozy historical fantasy, which is a genre I really think I need more in my life because it was so interesting and so delightful. Book 1 and 2 is more of the cozy side, while 3 and 4 adds in some maybe more suspense, higher stakes, if you will, and book 5 is a mix of the two, and it worked really well. I thought this was such a fun series. It's really hard for me to describe this series because I just enjoy it so much. I've never read anything like it, but we follow Edith, and this is kind of like Victorian, early 1900s in London, well, just England, really, and her father receives word that he is now the owner of his childhood home, and so they have to go to said childhood home. And there's really suspicious things happening, and there may even be dragons. And it's just really fun. I enjoyed so many different elements of this series. It really made me think, but I was also just so enthralled and just so invested into it. It is a really fun series. I can't wait to see what the author writes next, particularly the spin-off series. I'm very much ready and waiting for that series. But the Secrets of Ormdale series is just a really unique one that I've never read anything like it before. There are also audiobooks for the series if you prefer audiobooks, and they're really well done audiobooks. I have to recommend those as well. So yeah, if you're interested in them, definitely check them out. With that, that is the end of this video. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope some of these books caught your eye, maybe. I know I've talked about all of them before here on my channel, but in case you're new and you need some recommendations, hopefully one of these interests you and you enjoy them. I had fun trying to come up with these. These are ones I've read basically in like the last year, year and a half. So again, I've talked about them before, but there's a good reason that I'm talking about them again. They would work for summer and they're enjoyable. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope some of these caught your eye. I'd love to know if you've read any of them or do you want to read any of them. Please feel free to also let me know what you like to read in the summer, either genres or books. If you have any recommendations, feel free to let me know. And I will see y'all next time. I am Lindsey from the blog booksforchristiangirls.blogspot.com, where there is a new review every Wednesday and Friday. I try to post a new video on this channel every Friday as well. And then I am on Instagram under Book Reviews by Lindsey, which is my personal Bookstagram account where I talk about Christian fiction and clean fiction. It's kind of like a journal diary log, I guess you could say, of what I'm reading. But then I'm also on Books for Christian Girls, which is an Instagram account just for Christian fiction and a few nonfiction books here and there. And I think that's it. I'm on TikTok as well. I'm trying to do better at posting on there. Wish me luck. And I'm on Goodreads and Facebook as well. Yeah, I think that's it. So I'll see y'all next time. I hope you have an absolutely lovely rest of your day, my dear friends. Bye!